apologize if I got it wrong, but I think he felt like Hollywood and acting, and I know he's been quoted on this, was so fake and so, with for lack of a better term, feminine. It was so soft and bullshit.
The actor Mickey Rourke, who enjoys punching faces of individuals, did you know how the life's hardships struck him in the face of others? Are perpetually perplexed by his visage one day. He appears to be a tough movie star with the next, he displays a cheeky sparkle in his eye. Appearing as a crazy disco grandmother who simply left a filming location following a combat, despite the fact that Mickey's face evolved with time, and it has even been said to be a representation of how Hollywood can ruin some magazine stars. Went so far as to refer to him as one of the most gifted, but also most contentious actors to ever appear on. Currently in his 70s, Mickey Rourke has had many highs and lows in life. He overcame a difficult upbringing to taking solace in boxing and eventually becoming famous, but behind the macho guy in Hollywood image showed a man who endured severe hardship, with sorrow and the anguish that never truly abandoned him. His path is among join us for survival, heartache, and talent. In this video, we discuss the Mickey Rourke's terrible life tale, who devoted themselves fully to the spotlight, and Mickey's motivation for destroying his face before Hollywood ever became famous. Mickey Rourke, as he was known, was just a tough youngster attempting to make it through a difficult existence. Philip Andre Rourke Jr. was born on September 16, 1952, Schenectady Published, York. Although his early years were very different from calm following his father's departure from Mickey's, his stepfather's life took a terrible turn, and home life was rendered violent by an ex-cop. Intolerable, so Mickey discovered growing up in Miami's rough streets when learning how to survive meant combat in the midst of all the mayhem. Mickey found something that provided, oddly enough, his strength. Boxing was initially introduced by his stepfather him to it, but after Mickey entered the ring, it evolved into more than a sport, became his means of escape. Convert suffering into strength. At the age of 12 he got into his first amateur fight at the age of weighed just 112 pounds, but he prevailed, and that as he grew older, when ignited a fire inside him. Mickey received his training at the storied 5th Miami Beach Street Gym, where boxing by 1969, champions were created, and he even fought a world match against Luis Rodriguez. Although champion Mickey was still in his teens, he held his own, but regrettably he departed the ring that day with a severe concussion, reminder of the sport's high level of danger perhaps. But Mickey wasn't finished by. He was a rising figure in amateur sports. In 1971, he joined the Florida Golden Knights to box gloves, a major competition for young combatants, but yet another concussion. Doctors advised him to take a break. To take a year off, which meant removing himself from the ring. He never desired to continue boxing. The record was self-evident. Between 1964 and in 1973, Mickey prevailed in 27 bouts with 12 consecutive knockouts. He gave a knockout in the first round against John Carver and won difficult bouts against combatants like Javier Villanueva and Ronnie Carter. Also lost, but every setback made him Mickey. Boxing was tougher and wiser. Winning was never the only goal. It was about survival. Provided him a sense of purpose and discipline, and motivation to continue when life seemed unachievable. But as the strikes increased up, and Mickey was covered in wounds, was at a fork in the path. Would he continue to was there or fighting in the ring? Another route was awaiting him, but he didn't. He was aware that the route would lead directly to. There was a period in Hollywood when Mickey the Globe was at Rourke's feet, uncooked. Unquestionable charisma, talent, and a screen presence that was unavoidable, but Mickey paused somewhere along the route. Realizing who he was looking at in the mirror, disenchanted with the Hollywood apparatus, he left the performance, not because he didn't succeed, but since he believed that lost his identity. So he returned to the one element about boxing that always felt authentic for Mickey. It was more than just a sport. It was a fight for atonement within the ring. He sensed every blow and every bruise. In that misery, each heartbeat served as a reminder. He was still living, but his battles continued when the outside bell rung. Mickey frequently found himself in the ring, entangled with difficulties and leading a life on the edge as he had always been. He was so devoted to boxing to the point where he turned examining Butch's part in Pulp Fiction as a personally Quentin Tarantino. Mickey never even opened the offer that was made to him. Script, his gloves on, and his attention was elsewhere, but it was expensive for years. Left his face with bruised bones in the ring, stacked shattered concussions, and he ultimately had to go through a lot of facial reconstruction. Enthusiasts were somewhat taken aback. Said in a whisper that he had ruined his good deliberate glances. Perhaps they were correct. Perhaps Mickey, who has always hated the superficial beauty standards of Hollywood, need to dismantle what the industry worshipped him the most throughout that period. Previously, Operations made news. Mickey, with whom viewers fell in love in 9.5 weeks, along with Angel Heart, appeared disoriented under the scars, but he continued to struggle both mentally and physically. Until medical professionals eventually gave him one more hit might be the end. Same to his homeboy Mickey's greatest character. The fight occurred with someone outside of the ring. Mickey Rourke's journey to Hollywood notoriety was anything like the norm, and he was a senior in high school in 1971. Miami's primary concentration was boxing, although he appeared in a school play for a short time. The Serpent's behavior didn't pique his actual passion was boxing, but unfortunately, fate had other ideas. A friend from he was invited by the University of Miami to audition for the Death Watch play following the original actor's departure. Hesitantly entering the realm of Rourke found a passion for acting that he had expected. Using $400 borrowed from his sister, he relocated to New York, held a variety of positions, and received training from experienced performers such as Walter Lott and Sandra Seacat, who encouraged her mentorship. Him to face his own demons included getting back in touch with his estranged father's development as an actor. In addition to these disclosures enabled him to secure a location in the esteemed actor's studio on the renowned director's first attempt. Elia Kazan even referred to his tryout as the Rourke's film was the best he had seen in 30 years. Career started in the late 1970s, with 1941, directed by Steven Spielberg, although it was his involvement in Body Heat as an arsonist that attracted attention to the actual breakthrough. Arrived in 1982 and performed with Diner. Boogie is a charming gambler who his performance brought him widespread in the National Society of Film Praise Award for Best Supporting Actor from critics, indicating the emergence of a significant talent in the early 1980s. Rourke persisted in to dazzle in a variety of roles in Rumblefish and Greenwich Village's Pope. He demonstrated his range, solidifying his recognition as a talented performer. By the middle he starred in 9 films as a main guy in the 1980s. Weeks and a Half, which transformed him into a barfly and the sex symbol, where his depiction of a diligent writer received great acclaim. In 1987, appeared in the contentious film Angel Heart, movie that made waves in the United States, but gained a loyal fan base throughout Europe. His The picture of the defiant, moody person resonated. French reviewers even likened him to James Dean. Nevertheless, by the late 1980s, started to disentangle the unpredictable conduct on the set of a box office failure. Movies such as Wild Orchid and The Marlboro Man and Harley Davidson helped him deteriorate. He turned legendary parts in Platoon, Top Gun, and from Pulp Fiction to the early 1990s Rourke, who was fed up with Hollywood, made a sudden change that suggests his story was still going strong in the early 1980s. Hollywood was blown away by a young sensation with his tough appearance and charisma presence. He soon emerged as one of the most frequently discussed leading male. Audiences admired him, and critics gave him high marks. But behind the scenes, he battled for recognition. Didn't make him happy. Rather, Yet this actor experienced a situation that made him feel stuck. Boxing experience. And as the years passed, he began to feel more cut off from Hollywood lifestyle. In an interview he had in 1992, he set up and declared that following 8 years in he didn't feel like he belonged in the spotlight. To himself no longer, the pressure, the celebrity, and he was gradually worn down by the artificial grins. Eventually he resumed boxing instead of for peace boxing, not for celebrity or money, felt authentic to him. In contrast to the world of, he claimed that when acting, he never provided him with the necessary emotional release. He found that boxing helped him cope with his anguish in a manner that no other. In the early, he took a risk in the 1990s and quit acting, trailing and concentrating on boxing full-time. However, the transition wasn't simple. His body felt more rooted and took a pounding quickly. He fractured his cheekbone was cracked twice by his nose, and sustained additional wounds from pals, and physicians advised him to halt before it caused irreversible harm. But he didn't hear his wounds piling up on his face started to alter while the movie was being filmed. Those who observed swelling and wild orchids his cheeks and began spreading gossip about he denied having botched plastic surgery, claiming that it came from dental work. But by 2009, he acknowledged that the rumors persisted. He has undergone multiple procedures to repair the damage from boxing, and he had faith in the incorrect individuals to assist him. Once a sign of Hollywood achievement, he discovered that notoriety come at a cost. His tale turned into a lesson in the art of pursuing something. Sometimes being gorgeous can leave you despite all the ups and downs. I feel hollow. And downs, he never really gave up. His transformation from boxer to movie star demonstrates the strength required to begin even when everyone is looking, and there was one when things were too difficult. Something that always made him feel better. Mickey Rourke's life in the 1990s took his Hollywood career took a difficult turn, diminishing, and he was having trouble with both emotionally and financially. His Carrie Otis's relationship with the model was news outlets are also disintegrating. Frequently discussed the issues in their marriage. Rourke felt disoriented, alone, and in a devastating interview, he expressed hopelessness. Demonstrated how close he was to he had given up and begun to shut down, sleeping and removing himself from the outside world. One night in a closet, he considered terminating his life, but Bojack, his dog, saved. He claimed that after looking into Bojack, sensed the dog's question in his gaze. If you don't look after me, who will? Depart? Everything changed at that instant. He had a reason to live because of Bojack. Then on Rourke's animal bond, he claimed that dogs in particular became stronger. They assisted him and gave him a purpose. Endured difficult times, friends observed how he loved his dogs very much, especially his favorite small dog is the Chihuahua. Loki was a mixed Chihuahua Terrier. Referred to her as my life's love and even transported her to England for the filming Stormbreaker to prevent their separation. In his Golden Globe address in 2009, Rourke expressed gratitude to his pets for supporting him when no other person did. Sometimes when a man's alone, he said, are all he has. Jack the dog, who was crying, said was the father of the person who saved his life. Loki and 2 additional cherished pets. When Jack died, Rourke, Chocolate was eventually inspired by Heartbroken Chocolate. Chocolate, a children's book. Over the years, he has made the 4 seasons adopted Ruby, Baby Iris, Jaws, and many other dogs. Jaws saved Bella and others from a dangerous circumstances, even surfaced with Rourke in a Once Upon a Time and the PETA campaign Mexico. Rourke frequently said that his house felt alive as a result of the dogs they provided him. When Loki died, there was calm in a turbulent world. Shortly before the 2009 Oscars, at the age of 17, claimed that she died in his arms and that he never forget the solace she provided. Through all of his life's highs and lows, his canines provided him with unwavering support. Were his family, not just pets. His healers and his motivation to continue, however, despite their affection, people were unable to. I'm curious to know how the charming the 80s heartthrob has nearly in 1994, unrecognizable in subsequent years. Mickey Rourke made a choice that would change his life. He left the boxing ring with a world that he had once enthusiastically embraced and returned to the unpredictability. It was the start of the acting world. Of a strong but turbulent period in his life, despite having previously been Hollywood's. His extended separation from his cherished heartthrob, he struggled to recover from the screen. His reappearance showed that he was still able to. Mickey's talent and perseverance had not diminished. His return had not occurred overnight. He began with little roles in The Rain is one of the highly acclaimed movies. Buffalo's 66 Animal Factory, The Manufacturer, Mexico. Promise, and Once Upon a Time. These parts served as a reminder to viewers and both detractors of his versatility and unfiltered the magnificence that was hinted at by talent not yet arrived. Therefore, in 2005 he seized the spotlight once again for his depiction of the Marv in the neo-noir was haunted by gritty. His career was revived by the hit Sin City. Act brought him praise from the Irish Film and the Chicago Film Critics as well as the Television Academy and the Internet. The Film Critics Society was a certain Mickey Rourke's message to the industry was returned, and he had more to say. The real climax occurred in 2008 when he played Randy in the film The Wrestler. Ram Robinson is a wrestler who has been cleaned up. In pursuit of purpose and salvation, the role seemed eerily similar to Mickey's his own life, and he put all of his heart into his portrayal of the role captivated fans and won him a Golden A BAFTA, an Oscar nomination, and a Globe. Was not merely a role. It was a reflection of his own battle to stay appropriate in a world that has almost forgotten him, but things were as they were. Searching for the catastrophe that occurred a week earlier, Mickey lost his Oscar at the Academy Awards. Dear Chihuahua Loki, who had visited for 17 years, he frequently repeated. Loki was his life, and in a sincere homage, he described how she died quietly in his arms while the entire world cheered. Mickey's heart was silent during the performance. Shattering the wrestler, he was staying with the limelight with his significant contributions. Whiplash, the antagonist in Iron Man 2, teamed together with the renowned Expendables and starred in the thrilling Immortals. These parts resulted in financial success. However, Mickey was developing behind the scenes. He publicly chastised Iron after becoming disillusioned. Man 2, stating that a large portion of the performance had been halted, leaving just fragments of what he had created. Mickey eventually acknowledged that a lot of his choices after becoming a wrestler weren't motivated by a passion for the craft, but by the necessity of paying the bills. In movies such as 13, he would work on projects like Passion Play, and subsequently regret choices made during difficult, not always a creative interest. He struggled with the extreme change in his appearance over the years. Numerous boxing injuries resulted in 6 facial surgeries in all, including he had 5 nose surgeries and 1 for he shared a photo of his cheekbone in 2017. Instagram photo following yet another process, making a joke about how attractive he was, but once more, he maintained his sense of humor. The modifications caused anxiety and spectators' outrage at his critique appearance in an interview conducted in 2019 on Greetings, Britain, and a few others in the industry started to view him as a chameleon performer, as well as more as a diminishing one. Curious Agent bemoaned the fact that Mickey had become disconnected from his presentation style himself, while someone else lamentably remembered how he had previously appeared in The Rainmaker, contrasting his metamorphosis compared to Melanie Griffith's problems on the job and in the body made it more difficult for him to get the roles he used to command. When questioned on the unreleased horror movie 13 Without Holding Back, Mickey called it was awful. It was an obvious representation of how far he had strayed from his profession peaks of the past, but despite all of Mickey, every mistake, every regret, Roar's fortitude never faltered. Hollywood's path has been not at all smooth, it's a marked story. By exhilarating peaks and excruciating valleys, but it also demonstrates a man who, unwilling to abandon, whether it was a holiday or despite criticism, he remained loyal to himself. There is more to Mickey's story than just his ascent and fall. It reflects the conflict between pride in one's work and fame and hope, heartbreak, and vulnerability. Nevertheless, his ferocious nature and acting enthusiasm never goes out of style.